This is the data that shows the number of Starbucks stores in the United States for the years 1992 through 2007. Notice that under L1, the input for the years, we made a corresponding connection between 1992 and the number 2. In other words, 1990 is our starting point, year 0. Once the data is entered, then I'm going to turn on my stat plot. So second, y equals, making sure my plot is turned on. I have a scatter plot and I'm plotting against L1 and L2 using a mark. I'm going to press zoom 9, which is zoom stat, and now I have a nice picture of the data, and it looks like I could use a quadratic regression to find the model that best fits this data. So I'm going to do a little shortcut. Go to second, quit, and I'm going to go stat, over to calculate, and I want number 5, quad regression. And at this point, I want the calculator to take the quadratic regression and put it under my y equals so that the function goes right into the function y equal. So I press vars, use my right arrow to go over to y vars, select number 1 for function, and I want the regression model to go under y sub 1. Now I press enter. I'm telling the calculator do a quadratic regression and put those results into the y1. So here is the quadratic regression. Notice your r-squared value, your correlation coefficient. It's 0.997. If I were to round that off, that would be very close to number 1, which means we would have a perfect fit. So now let's go to y equals and make sure that I have something under my y equals. I've taken the quadratic regression and inserted it under y1. And now when I press graph, I have a visual of the model plotted against the data points. So this model is a reasonable fit for this data. Now we need to take this model and use it to estimate the number of stores in the year 2010. Well, first we have to decide what number corresponds to 2010 if 1990 is year 0. So that would correspond to the 20th year, 20 years past 1990. So I'm going to go to my table, second table, and I'm going to look for the number 20. When my input is 20, this is saying that the number of Starbucks stores in the United States will reach 13,404. Is this a reliable estimate based on this data? Two things you need to look at. First of all, how far away are you from your last data point? We stopped at 2007, so that's 3 years past our last data. I would suggest that to be a reasonable estimate. You don't want to go too far beyond your last data point, but 3 years is within that reasonable era. So to summarize, we entered the data under stat. We looked at the stat plot by doing zoom 9, and then I went back to stat and did a quadratic regression and put the answer under y1. Once I have my function under the y equals feature, I can look at the table numerically and find what is the output given an input of 20 years.